So I was today years old when I found out what a sundown town is. Apparently a sundown town is a town where the residents are only white. Okay, you can work there if you're a person of color in the daytime, but when the sun sets, you need to be out of there. And if you're not, you can risk being killed, beaten, arrested, ran out of town, or even lynched. And I also heard sometimes the cops don't even intervene if a white person is doing something to you because you're not supposed to be out there after the sun sets anyway. If you're caught driving out at night through a sundown town and you're a person of color, you're not safe. So before you take any trips, please do your research on sundown towns. Ever heard the phrase, be in before the streetlights come on? The generational trauma passed on, that's where that came from.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren
and I'm Maureen.
So today we are going to be playing you a very interesting clip we came across, but before we do, do you guys know what a sundown town is? This is a very interesting topic, I feel, and me as an African, and much like us, many of us in Africa, you'd ask people what they think a sundown town is, and this is what they would tell you in Africa. A sundown town seems like a very beautiful place, a place where so many people congregate and come to watch the sunset. That is an innocent African's point of view about what a sundown town is. Yeah, and to be quite honest, I would also say the same thing. The first thing that comes to mind when you hear a sundown town, a place that people gather to watch a beautiful sunset, probably because that town is known for having beautiful sunset. But apparently this is not the case in America. We came across some very interesting video. Let's just watch this and then come back and talk about it.
Did you know that at one point there were towns in the United States that were considered sundown towns? Additionally, if you were African American and you were going to go on a road trip with your family, you would be unwise to leave your home without this handy book with you. So you're asking, what is a sundown town? What is that? Here you go. A sundown town was a town that took steps to ensure that it remained all white, and a lot of these towns would have signs basically warning people of color that if they were found in this town after the sun went down, they can't promise that they'll be able to leave again. Now, as you can see here, there are some exceptions. So if that town had a nanny or a butler or a maid that was African American, then of course they lived there, they were allowed to remain. However, if you were just, say, a black family pushing through, or you decided you wanted to purchase a house in that town, absolutely no. Now, one may think that these sundown towns were primarily in the American South. However, that is inaccurate. These sundown towns existed all over the United States, and some even existed as far north as New Jersey. So, are you curious as to whether or not you live in a sundown town that was historically a sundown town? If you are, you're in luck. You might be able to find out. The IRL to the website here will tell you whether or not your town was considered a sundown town at some point. Now, these sundown towns were not formed legally. The government did not form these towns. These were towns that were formed by the community members themselves. So it's very possible that your town could have been a sundown town. However, it wasn't recorded as such. So keep that in mind when you're looking. This particular area is about a good maybe 10 or 15 minutes away from where I grew up. And I can confirm that there are absolutely no people of color living there. It's a very, very, very secluded and small area right by Indiana. So when I looked and found out that this place was potentially or was considered a sundown town, I'm like, I knew it. But take a moment to take a look at some of these towns.
When I tell you it was heinous, I'm going to have to be careful how I word this so that I don't get in trouble, but I think it needs to be said because I am sick and tired of hearing people say that people of color just need to get over it already because it was so long ago. No, it wasn't. My father remembers his father raising hunting dogs that he would rent out on the weekend for hunting parties, only these weren't regular hunting parties. These big bubbas would set up these almost lemonade type stands during the week and sell these little cards for like, I don't know, a nickel, 25 cents. They were person of color hunting licenses. And everyone who bought one during the week, they would gather together on the weekend with all their trucks and they would round up as many people of color in the surrounding areas as they could find, turn them loose in the woods and set the dogs after them. There are people alive today whose family were hunted down in the woods by dogs. And they raised their children to have a well-earned distrust of white people and of police officers. Because I guarantee you, any of the police officers that weren't wearing the hoods were turning a blind eye. This town, Vidor, Texas, at one time, I believe was known as the most racist city in the United States. It was a sundown town. They had a billboard that said, "Person of color, don't let the sun set on your ass." And anyone who was not white knew you don't drive through Vidor after dark. Even truckers would avoid that route if they weren't 100% certain that they could make it through before sundown, because God forbid they had a blowout or some sort of mechanical trouble in Vidor, Texas after dark, because they had citizens and police officers patrolling looking for them. If you were in Vidor, Texas after dark and you were not white, you probably wouldn't be seen again, or at least you wouldn't be seen in one piece. It's hard for me to talk about. The library sold t-shirts with rifles across it that said, "People of color, we're ready for you." The Klan marched down Main Street openly and with full support of the municipalities and the people until 1985. 1985.
So, Yolanda, say hello. She's enjoying her afternoon walk. I don't remember when I learned the term sundown town, but I do remember my first experience with one. 20-something, almost 20 years ago, I'm leaving my technical school, graduating. I'm fully in the Air Force, and I have a truck, so I could go home. I could drive myself home on leave from Texas back to Mississippi. So I'm driving from San Antonio. I'm so happy I get released from training. No more reporting statements. No more 341s or whatever that little form that we had to keep on us at all time and whatnot. And I'm going home to see my mama. So, Mom, I made it. I'm in the Air Force. And so I just randomly got released that day. Immediately packed up my truck and hit the road. I did not eat that day. So I'm about 5 hours east of San Antonio, just east of Houston. And I was like, man, I am on my last calorie. And I pull off I-10 in a little town, I think it's called Vidor, V-I-D-O-R, Texas, Vidor. And I stop into a McDonald's, and I tell you, the music stopped as soon as I walked in that McDonald's. And this is right after the sun had gone down. And everybody stopped what they was doing, and everyone in there was staring at me. Customers, employees, the manager stuck their head out the back, and I asked for some food. And as a former McDonald's employee when I was in high school, I have never seen food be delivered to a customer that fast. I'm fairly certain they just gave me somebody else's food so I can get my, black ass out of the restaurant. It was the most awkward, painful situation I have ever been in. And keep in mind, I've been in the Air Force a little over 6 months at this point, so I kind of forgotten that America is a really bad place, and some places are worse than others. And so I just took that food, promptly threw it away, and I stayed hungry until I made it to Lafayette, Louisiana, where I stopped to get food. And all the times that I've gone back and forth, up and down I-10 over the last 20 years, I still do not stop in that town, and I don't gas up or get food until we hit Lafayette. So, now you know.
I actually been to a sundown town. It was actually my 8th grade year in middle school, right? And I was the only black girl on our basketball team at the time. So we had a basketball tournament in Vega, Texas. So I had a basketball tournament in Vega, Texas. And I didn't know anything about Vega, Texas before going there, anything like that. So immediately, we're going into the school for our basketball tournament, and my friend is all holding on to me, like, hold on, like, like all over me. And I'm just like, girl, why you on me? And like very protective, like a kind of protective kind of thing. And at that point, I did not realize I was in the sundown town area. But when we first entered the city of Vega, before we got to the school, I did see a sign outside that says, "Welcome to Vegas, Texas. No colored people out at night." Then I seen like on business windows as we were going down the street and things like that, I had seen like coloreds and whites. Now I'm looking at this stuff, but I'm like, I cannot believe my eyes are seeing what I'm seeing. Like it scarred me for life pretty much. And I'm just like, there's no way that this shit still exists. I'm thinking in my head, should I even be here? But back to the tournament, right? We walk into school, there's nothing but white students. I don't see not one black person in sight. I'm the only black person there, and I am the black girl on the team. So my friend is like sticking beside my side real hard, and I'm like, girl, what's going on? She was like, well, this school, like, I heard it's kind of racist, things like that. That's what she told me. So it clicked. I was like, I'm in a fucking sundown town. So we're playing our basketball game, whatever. I'm not for sure if we won that game or not, but I know I heard comments from the stands while I was playing saying, oh, that black girl this, that black girl that. I can't really for sure remember what they were saying, but they were talking about my skin complexion. Yeah, but definitely after I left that basketball tournament, it kind of scarred me for life. And I remember it like very like seeing the colored, like that was my first encounter with a sundown town, like straight up, and it scarred me for life that towns and people like that still exist. Like it's crazy, but I tell my coworkers this: you need to know what a sundown town is. And to my black people, if you guys are going to be traveling to places, you need to make sure that you do your research to make sure that you're not passing through an area that's a sundown town, okay, for your safety, because we still have ignorant people out here who want to be back in those times, and they just don't want to face the fact that we're finally free.
Okay, so this is not meant to cause any offense between my friends or colleagues or future friends that live there, but Arkansas. First of all, between Kansas and you, one of y'all got it wrong, and I don't think it's Kansas. Seriously, the one and only time I've ever been to Arkansas, I felt like I stepped into a wrong turn movie. So we were driving to Houston from Detroit, more than a 20-hour drive, by the way. We had just driven down through Missouri, where we slept in a car in a Walmart parking lot after witnessing people duke it out over God knows what. I mean, it's Walmart, you just don't ask questions. So I was relatively well rested, but about an hour into the drive, we made it into Arkansas, and the car decided it needed gas. Now, mind you, I'm the only non-melanated person in the car, and we're somewhere we've never been to in the rural South, so by the time we got to this gas station, I, by default, drew the shortest straw and had to go inside to buy the gas. So we pull up to this gas station, which was all dirt and no pavement, and those old school pumps, just something that none of us have ever seen aside from TV. I mean, like, we don't have, like, dirt road gas stations in Detroit. So I reluctantly get out the car and make my way past the door that was literally falling off the hinges to go inside to pay for this gas. So I walk up to the counter and I'm being stared down by this cashier, and I'm only talking about his looks because it's like to paint the picture, but he had this like thin long hair that was down to his shoulders that was like bald on top and only like a few teeth. Now, I'm not a person who judges by appearances at all, but I'm judging this man. The first words out of his mouth before I can even ask for gas is, "What are you doing here with them in these parts?" What do you mean by that? Now, my first instinct was to throw hands, but given the fact that our car was running on fumes and I did not know when the next gas station was going to pop up, all I wanted to do at this point was give this man my little funky $30 and get me and my friends up out of here. At this point, I was afraid for their safety. By the way, this man was talking and I was not taking any chances. So I pay for the gas, and as I'm about to leave, he says, "Best hurry up. It's about to storm. Wouldn't want to be stuck around here when it's dark." So at this point, I'm definitely taking his words as a threat. So I walk out, I fill up, and we get the hell out of there. But before we could get too far, this insane fog starts rolling in. It's like so thick we can't even see out the front windshield. So we drive slow, and eventually we had to pull into this Taco Bell parking lot when the fog got replaced by this torrential rain. Eventually the rain stopped and it was replaced by another round of fog, but at this point it was also dark, so the four of us had to sleep in a Ford Focus until it was less foggy and bright enough to drive again. Unfortunately, we didn't make it till the sunlight before things started to get weird again. We were woken up by 3 people banging on our windows, yelling things that I will not repeat. They weren't doing any more than that at that point, but all I could think of was what the clerk at the gas station said to me earlier, and that was enough for us to not stick around. We started the car, we peeled out of the parking lot, and we drove from that point all the way to Houston without stopping. That was like 8-9 years ago, and none of us have ever been back ever since. So, yeah. Arkansas.
So my baby mother sent me this video, and I knew immediately that I needed to make a stitch of this because of some shit that happened with me, my sister Miracle, and a friend of mine, Val, that went down to Florida for a funeral of one of our mutual friends. Now, the drive down to Florida, easy peasy lemon squeezy. On the way back, though, that's when shit gets weird. Now, I'm driving like an early 2000s Ford Focus hatchback, and it has a lot of engine issues because as a traveling musician, I have put this mother through the ringer. One of the tubes in the engine is split open, causing the engine to overheat and damn near blow up on us. So we needed to find a Jiffy Lube or some kind of mechanic shop to pull into to get this shit fixed ASAP if we were going to make it home at all. Now, this is my first time in Alabama, and unfortunately, the place that we pulled into happened to be a fucking sundown town. Fun, right? Now, unfortunately, we weren't going to be able to get the car fixed because the part that we needed to replace wasn't readily available, and we had to stay there overnight while they waited for a part from a town over to get to us. When we found that out, this white man who seemed very concerned about our being here and two black gentlemen who happened to work in there as well informed us that we were in a sundown town and that it would not be safe for us being there at dark. They then told us that the one place that would be safe for us in the event that we couldn't afford a hotel would be this Walmart about 2 miles down the road, because for whatever reason, that Walmart just happens to be like a safe spot for everybody there. It just seems where everybody just goes, no racism. So they were like, if you can't afford a hotel, go stay there. Now, unfortunately, our car really wasn't meant to make that journey. While we got there, we realized that if we stayed there too long, we might not be able to get back to the Jiffy Lube in the morning. So we then ended up having to drive back to the town that we weren't supposed to be at and stay there until the morning so we could get the car fixed. Very bad idea. That entire night, we were both harassed by cops and random white people that kept driving past our cars when they realized there was black people staying in there, calling us all kinds of names that I can't repeat on here because of TikTok guideline violations. Now, I'm just a black kid from Baltimore with anger issues, so my first initial response is to start swinging on everybody, and I did have my Yadamine in the car, so I was like, you know what, I'm probably about to go crazy. But then, logic and my friends kicked in and reminded me that we are in the middle of Alabama, where I will probably not make it out alive if I decide to do anything drastic in this situation. Needless to say, it was a hard night, and I don't think any of us slept that night. As soon as we were able to get back to that Jiffy Lube and get that part open, we got the fuck out of there immediately. There were plenty of times that night where I did not think we were going to make it out of Alabama alive. And yes, every person that was raised with us in Alabama had that look. And y'all know the one that I'm talking about. That was my first and last time in Alabama, and I promise you, unless somebody knocked me out and dragged me there by my fucking ankles, I will never go back to that state again.
Yo, let me tell y'all as quickly as I can about my night in a sundown town. 2022, a sundown town. So I get a load going to a particular city in Texas, and I'm like, okay, well, let me head on over here and drop this off. They're gonna pay me this much. That's perfect. I like that. It's a quick 200 miles, make it quick. Whatever the amount was, great, cool. I get there and I look at the exit. I'm like, wait a minute. It took me to exit 861A. For those who don't know, it's a place called Vidor, Texas, Vidor, Vidor. I'm like, uh-oh. I've heard stories. Like pretty much everybody I know in Texas that's black tells me, do not go to Vidor, Texas. I'm like, okay. Yet here I was in Vidor, Texas. My load didn't deliver until this morning. This is from the perspective of yesterday. Didn't deliver until tomorrow at 8. It was like 5:30. So I get to the place. I'm not giving names of companies or anything like that. But while I'm driving to the place, I see trailer parks. I see a bunch of Confederate flags. I saw a doll of a black man. It was just a doll wrapped in a Confederate flag hanging from a tree by its neck. That's the type of stuff I saw in Vidor, Texas, which led me to believe that the reputation was fairly earned. I get there. The security guard says, hey, we got a code red. The guy gets on the phone, is like, hey, I can't, I don't want to be responsible for this guy's safety. Let me go ahead and find somebody because we stopped taking loads at 4 o'clock. But I'll get somebody over here from the other side of the plant. Tell them to hang on. So I hang on. I'm doing what I got to do. Finally, somebody comes by about 15 minutes later. The guy said, let me hurry up and get you unloaded. He quickly gets me unloaded. And they say, dude, you might want to get up out of here as soon as possible. We're at sundown. You want to leave here now. Don't stop until you at least get to Beaumont. I was like, okay. He's like, no, seriously, I said, well, what about the police? Why aren't the police there? Police turn a blind eye. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do what you said. He said, yeah, man, I don't want to see you getting in any trouble. So I went ahead and I took off, headed to Beaumont. I went to the Petro in Beaumont, slept there, and I had my my Armalite rifle 15 with me, slept with a couple of extra magazines. But I'm safe, y'all. But that was my night in the Sundown.
I had my own experience in Vidor. I was coming back from Oklahoma. I was visiting my niece up in Oklahoma. And on the way back to Texas, you pass through Vidor. There's Orange, Texas, then there's Vidor, and then there's Beaumont. So I didn't think I had enough gas to make it to Beaumont. So I stopped in Vidor. I had no idea that people that looked like me were not invited to that city or not liked in that city. I had no idea. So I pumped my gas first. And as I'm walking up to the convenience store, I noticed the clerk was on the phone. Well, I mean, I just thought, well, maybe someone's calling to see if they have a certain item in before they go down there. Never knew that I was the whole reason he was on the phone. So there was a guy at the counter, and then a guy passed me. He went up to the counter. So eventually it just came down to me and the guy in there. And I was like, sir, I'm here to pay for the gas. And so he didn't really say nothing to me. So I looked, there's a little, those little things you can pull your number, like number 15, you're up next. But there was one of those as I walked in the store. I seen it, so I walked back. I said, well, maybe I got to pull a number or something. I mean, hey, I didn't know. And so, like I said, it was just me and him in the store. So as I said, I'm here to pay for my gas, so I started walking towards the counter, and I gave him the money for that. He gave me my change. And about that time when I turned around, I noticed the officer was coming in to the store, and he had his hand on his gun. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe this guy was getting robbed. And so I never knew I was the problem. I wasn't raised to see people any kind of status. Even in my job, I hold the highest position in my job. And I don't even see titles. I don't care about titles. We're a team. My parents didn't raise me to see a person as a color. They raised me to see a man as a man and a woman as a woman, and not a black man, a white woman, black woman, Asian. I wasn't raised that way.
To all my melanated individuals out there who do a lot of traveling on the road like myself, you should know what a sundown town is, because believe it or not, they still exist. And how do I know this? Because I've been through one. BuzzFeed did an entire article about my experience, which I would like to share with you all. Now, for those of you all who don't know, these are towns that African Americans are not allowed to be in after a certain time because it could get bad for them. Back in 2020, I went to Devil's Bathtub. Devil's Bathtub is located deep in the southwestern portion of Virginia. Now, as you're on your way there, you're going to pass through poor neighborhoods that have nothing but rebel flags flying high. And you have a lot of one-way roads that have no street lights or cameras. At one point, I thought to myself, damn, I could easily get and no one would ever know. Now, obviously, nothing happened to me. But as we were leaving, we took the scenic route back home. I remember traveling along Route 119, stopping at a gas station. The cashier was like, you must not be from around here, huh? I was like, nah, I'm just passing through getting gas. She was like, yeah, you best not be around here after a certain time. This is a sundown town. Now, I don't think she had bad intentions. I think she was just looking out for me. But that was the day that I learned what a sundown town is, and they still exist. Now, they might not be listed on the books, but the ideologies still remain the same in those towns.
Yes, sundown town. I've had the misfortune of running across one sundown town in my entire life. And as I was rolling in, it said, such and such town limits. Underneath it, it said this is a sundown town. I didn't understand what that meant. My passenger, he started freaking out. Like he was freaking out and he wanted to turn around and leave. And I didn't understand why. And then a little bit later, it came across another sign that said, N-word, do not let the sun set on your black ass or you will be swinging in the morning. I turned around and left real fast. Does that explain to you what a sundown town is?
So in this day and age, we still have sundown towns, and we still have places that black people or African Americans are not allowed to go to, which is quite sad. Like, it's 2024, and some of these incidences happened in 2023, 2022. Like, why would people do this to a fellow human being? But also, if you realize, so guys, just for disclaimer, we do play these videos for you to create awareness, because as you've seen in the previous videos, there are even white people themselves who do do not know about Sundown Town. Right. From the looks of it, it looks like some Black Americans don't know the term or the meaning of sundown towns. So if you, our audience, know what a sundown town is, please comment down in the section below so that you can enlighten most of us, you know. So I was really shocked to know what a sundown town is because before coming across any of these videos, I had never heard of this term, the sundown towns. And you know, when I hear sundown, I usually attribute it to like some of these oldies songs, you know, sundowners, you know, all these songs, all these vibes, which is so good, you know. And also when you attach a sundown town to it, I would almost be forgiven for assuming, because I'm from Africa, for assuming these are beautiful towns that people go to watch sunset, you know.
And the question the question I'm asking myself is, why do bad things always happen after daylight? Why do bad things always happen after dark? You understand?
Yeah, and it is quite painful and disheartening to get to see firsthand what Black people in America have been dealing with and what they have had to go through, you know.
But if you think that was just in the colonial days where Black people were being hunted, you are very mistaken. And I believe talking about such issues, it
makes more people aware, whether you're Black or white. It makes people aware of their surrounding environment.
And my question is, to the white population that is so hell-bent on hating on Black people, these sundown towns, from my understanding, they are an all-white neighborhood. And from how these guys are describing this type of neighborhoods, like the last boy, from the Black boy with the dreads, he was describing a rundown town, quite a poor neighborhood with no street lights that he was passing through, and it's an only white people town. So me, I'm wondering if white people feel like Black people are there to take the opportunities, Black people are there to be this and that, they're looking for an excuse to hate on Black people and and just harm a Black person because of what they believe Black people are doing to their society or whatnot. I feel like these are just failure of people, of the the white supremacy, and their failure is what they're trying to cover up
and project onto Black people.
Exactly. So I don't know what you guys have to say about this, because to be quite honest, it makes my heart feel quite unsettled, and I really feel for our Black American brothers and sisters who have to go through this all throughout their lives. Because can you imagine?
Yeah, right now I'm even just trying to imagine, because I'm an African living in Kenya. What if there were certain places in Kenya I couldn't go, because like here in Kenya we have tribal clashes, and I know it's not the same, but I try to imagine during elections when violence comes and certain tribes cannot go into certain areas because you'll be killed for being from a certain tribe.
There was a time that fear was here
in Kenya. And then what I really love Kenyans for, the last election that happened, nobody wanted anything to do with tribal violence.
If a lot of you know about the political history of Kenya or Africa in general, but let's focus on Kenya, you'll know that the 2007 election was the most violent election that Kenya has ever experienced, and tribalism was quite a thing. There were people from a certain community killing people from a certain community, So during those days, if you are from the Luo
tribe, you could not go to
a Kikuyu land. If you are a Kikuyu person, you wouldn't go to a Luo land.
So things like that. So, and I'm glad right now Kenya, it looks like we are past that period and time, and I pray for Kenya to continue valuing the unity they can foster by avoiding tribal clashes,
and there's a place I want us to highlight, a place that has been brought up a lot in these video clips. Video, Texas. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but you can correct me if I'm not. So right now, the sweetness about having social media, especially social handles like TikTok, where videos kind of go viral a lot, is because they highlight such issues. And Video Texas has been brought up a lot. My question is,
while other places in America, much as the systemic racism, there are other places that are trying to move on from what was happening during slavery. Other places like Video, Texas still operates in the slavery mindset kind of, system. They still have the posters about the N not being allowed in such neighborhoods. What would happen to you if you're found after dark? There's a lady who's talked about the family owning hunting dogs. So you can imagine what it was like for let's try and live this day and age. Let's go step back a little, in a decade or 2 decades back, where white families could go. You go purchase a hunting ticket, and it's not for animals. You waste your money on purchasing a hunting ticket, and this ticket is not for hunting animals, mind you, it's for hunting human beings. How shallow can you be, and how hollow can you be, and how soulless can you be in order for you to just go purchase a ticket, go with your dog and hunt a human being, right? Yeah. And some people are even proud of that culture up to date. They just outright tell these black people, don't let the sun set on your, it's not right. And I'm glad that there's a guy who talked about, he didn't know about the Sundown town, and he went into one trying to purchase food, and the energy he was met with, he knew. I'm glad he threw that food away, because you don't eat food that has been handed to you by your enemies. Like, it could literally, you don't know what happens under the table, you understand? So I'm glad he took the chance to. Yes, I'm glad he didn't take any risk by eating that food. He just held his own until he got on over to the next town. Yeah, but you guys, let us know in the comment section what you think about this episode. I'd really like to know. I know we have a huge audience of Black Americans or Black people who live in the US, and also Africans in diaspora. I want to know, have you guys ever encountered a sundown town, and what was your experience like for you? And for those people who don't know what a sundown town is, or have never experienced what a sundown town is, what will be your advice to them, and what precautions should they take should they find themselves in a sundown town that they didn't know existed? Right, so let's aim to create awareness, guys. If you can share this video and you think it's going to help somebody out there, let it be known, because I feel like this kind of videos, they not only create awareness in America, even in Africa, because I know something today. If I were to travel to America, I now know to look out for sundown towns and the signs of posters that have been put up, because an innocent me from Africa going to America maybe to see somebody or in vacation, I'd be very clueless on what a sundown town is. In my innocent brain, honestly and 100%, I would be thinking this is a very beautiful town where everybody is accepted, and everybody just lays down their mat to watch the sunset. And it is said, and it is said Africans are very friendly people, and you know what we do in Africa? You wake up in the morning, you step outside your house, you see, guys, Video is a sundown town. You take your mat and then you go to sundown Video to try and experience the sunset. Yeah, and then you see, when you step out and see your neighbor in Africa, usually you say hi, you greet people, hi, how are you doing? How did you wake up? Things like that. How are you doing? Yeah, so imagine you're going to Video, Texas, you don't know the history, you don't know it's a sundown town, you're a very happy African, you know, and it's 7 p.m. so dark, obviously the sunset on you. So you go out there, you meet a white supremacist that you don't know is a white supremacist, and you're like, hi, brother. For instance, you hear this brother is called Ben. Hi, Ben, how you doing? Hi, white man. Innocent, only for you to unleash a hunting dog on you. So you guys, let us know what you think about it. If there's a white person who's watching this, did you know there were sundown towns that existed in America? What do you know about this, about the topic sundown towns? Right. So I think we'll leave you with that, and hopefully we'll catch you on our next episode as usual. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Right. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.